Hello and welcome to Toilet Topics with Cody Glott. In today's episode, I'll be reviewing Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 6, Beyond the Wall. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes. I got a new camera set up, so I apologize if there's any issues, but we're going to try and go with it. But let's get on with the episode. This was a pretty action-packed episode, I feel like. We kind of have Jon with his merry men looking like the Fellowship of the Ring, drudging through the snow like on Lord of the Rings. So we have them going through the snow. There's some really good banter with him and Tormund, talking about how like Mance Rayder didn't want to bend the knee, and it cost a lot of people their lives. Kind of talking about how like Dany's requesting him to bend the knee, and Jon's not willing to do that. We kind of also get some pretty good banter with Gendry and how he's mad at the Brotherhood, how they sold him. He wanted to be a part of their, brotherhood and like fight with them, but they sold him to Melisandre. The witch, to help, try to. She was thinking in her mind, if we sacrifice the blood of a king, it'll help Stannis win. Of course, Davos releases him, and they had that joke from last episode. I just figured you keep rowing, so that was a pretty good bit of stuff. So they're kind of trudging through the snow, like I said, and then they kind of see something in the background running towards them, and I'm like thinking, oh, what is that? And then this huge kind of like white bear, zombie bear, like a white bear, and it's like tearing them apart. It kills like kind of those guys where you're like, oh, that's definitely a red shirt. Like for anyone who watches Star Trek, that guy is wearing a red shirt, so he's probably gonna die, kind of thing. Even though technically they weren't wearing red shirts, but they were like, that's just some random soldier that's definitely gonna get killed. So of course, he attacks, killing them, and then he kind of jumps over and on Thoros and like wounds him very badly. And like while the fighting's going on and the confusion, the hound's just kind of staring. The bear is kind of somewhat on fire from those flame swords they have, with the flint and everything, and can make them catch on fire. And this kind of brought up an interesting point to me. I don't know if he was not helping him because he was afraid of the fire, or if he was just, I don't know, he kind of was like staring at him blankly, like kind of, I don't know. I know he's afraid of fire, but he looked into the flames, so I don't know if he saw something maybe, and maybe he's like, oh, he's meant to die. So it's kind of up in the air on why he acted how he did. And then he survives, barely. He has very bad wounds. They say we got to get him back, to Eastwatch, but he says no, we got to keep going. So they keep going. They run into like a small band of White Walkers, and some whites. So it's like there's one White Walker, and then he has all his like maybe like 10 to 15 like kind of with him right there. They go down to fight to try to capture one. Jon's fighting with Ironclaw, the Valyrian Steel, so he's fighting him. He ends up killing him, and then most of the whites just kind of like fall and die. There's one that remains. So this guy gave us a pretty good point that apparently the White Walkers, the ones that look like white with the silver hair and they're almost like ice looking, they're the ones who are keeping these zombies alive. So it's like whoever they turned to a zombie, if that person dies, those zombies are probably gonna be destroyed, or at least most of them. So they have this one, they capture it. They hear like the footsteps of all of them like running towards them, more whites. So they get Gendry to run back to Eastwatch because he's the fastest. He hands off his hammer to Tormund. I think the Tormund and Hound both have a hammer. They're using, maybe they're switching off, but so they pretty much run out. There's this big thing of ice, and at first they're like, oh crap, but then they start running towards them. So they run to like there's this solid piece kind of in the middle of this like frozen lake. They get on top of it, and most of the whites like fall in. This kind of lasts for a little bit. We kind of also get some scenes in Winterfell where Arya and Stannis' relationship is deteriorating very quickly. She discovers her like faceless men mask, and she's like, "What are these?" She keeps asking, and Arya's just like, "Those are my faces." and I could have your face and maybe how it would feel to be a lady. So they, I feel like the show's moving so quickly this last season that the pacing to me sometimes feels a little rushed. We're used to like a whole episode someone traveling throughout the country. It takes like 2 or 3 episodes for them to actually get to somewhere. So it's just moving really quickly. One thing I did like was Stanza did mention like I haven't seen John in weeks, even though to the viewer it seems like oh he's going here, here, here. To at least the characters in the show, they kind of acknowledge it that weeks have passed, months have passed since John has left Winterfell. So that's kind of um, you know a good it makes me feel good that like the showrunners are recognizing hey this season is moving very quickly compared to other seasons and we're kind of acknowledging that fact. Um, we kind of shoot back over to that group. They're in that frozen lake. John, the Hound, Jorah Mormont, and the Brotherhood, without banners guys. And the Hound's getting annoyed. He's like, "Ah, come on!" And he's like throwing rocks, and he hits one of the whites, and then he throws another rock, and it doesn't go hit him, but it's like on the lake. And then the white kind of looks down, and they all realize that the lake is actually frozen over, solid again. So they all start running at him. It's a pretty cool moment. They're like just charging them, and you're almost like, "Oh man, what? Someone's definitely gonna die." Like so we're gonna get some dust here. Oh, to backtrack a little bit, Thoros, he actually did die of just being cold, of them just staying there for a couple days. Because it made it seem like they were there for at least, I think, maybe 2 days, maybe only one night. I don't know. They were there for an extended period of time, so he succumbed to his injuries in the cold, and he just died, so they just burned him. And, so that we had the fighting going on. It's really good action. I really was scared for Tormund because he gets hit in the face, and then he's getting dragged into this like puddle where like the Hound like smashed a hammer, and there's like a big like almost like an ice fishing kind of circle, and they're pulling him down, and I'm like, oh man, this might be it for him. Luckily, the Hound kind of comes to the rescue, saves him, and they're all fighting, and then we get kind of this like slow motion moment of like John just kind of looking around, and it's almost looking like they made it really the tension when I was watching it. Like I was just like, oh god, like I really don't want John to die or like any of these characters really, because a lot of them are like some of my favorite characters. Jorah, it's like, oh man, he just got back with Dany and he went up here, and it just makes you think like, man, this was like the dumbest plan. I don't know why they did this, but anyway, so right when everyone's the despair's in their eyes, Dany comes flying in with her awesome dragons, just burning things to a crisp. And, it's pretty cool scenes of them just like going over everything, just just burning those whites to nothingness. And then we see the Night King, and I'm like, oh god, this is not going to end well. He picks up like a kind of like a spear, like a javelin that's made of ice. He cocks it back. You know, this is just like the realist in me, but I'm looking at it. He's aiming for one of the ones that are flying, right? Because they're attacking him. But there's Drogon is right down there trying to gather up all the people. It's almost like wouldn't it be easier just to shoot him? He's the biggest one and he's on the ground. But that's besides the point. So he launches it, hits Viserion. I'm pretty sure it's Viserion because it's like the golden colored one, and that's what color he was. And then I think is it Rhaegon, Rhaegal? The other one is kind of like a greenish color. So he hits him. It severely wounds him. It kind of hits him, I think, like in the chest or the shoulder area. He kind of goes flying down. You can see the pain in Dany's face. It's really hard to watch, and you're just as a watcher, I'm just like, no, no, please. I knew like as soon as she took them all three up there, I knew she was gonna probably lose one, but I just was holding out hope maybe they would all make it back safe. So he kind of crashes into the ice. He has one moment where his eyes are still like kind of you can see the life in it, and then it kind of just goes in the back of his head, and then he slips down and falls into the lake. So it's a pretty sad moment. And then we have John. He's like defending him still, and then he sees that the Night King is about to load up another javelin, and he tells them to just go. And then he pretty much gets dragged under the frozen lake, and you're just like, no, John, what are you doing? And this kind of brings up another point that I thought, like, ever since John got brought back to life, I feel like he hasn't wanted to be alive. Like, he didn't want to come back. And I don't know if he has, like, a suicidal thoughts, but, like, in the Battle of the Bastards, he's kind of, like, in the middle of the field, He's volunteering for the suicide mission. It just seems like he's putting himself in harm's way just because maybe to feel something, or maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to live. I'm not really sure. And then, they escape with the other two dragons, luckily, and it misses them. Um, we kind of jump over to Eastwatch. Danny's kind of sad, waiting, and then John actually pops out. He's still alive, which I didn't think he was going to die, but you always fear, like, who knows with this show. And then he's kind of like by himself, and then all the whites are charging at him. And his uncle Benjen comes in with this kind of like flailing, like I don't know, slingshot type weapon that has like fire and stuff, and he's knocking him out. And he's like, take my horse and go. And he's like pretty hurt, pretty bad, and frozen from the lake. And he's like kind of looking behind him as his uncle kind of gets overwhelmed and he dies. I wasn't expecting him to show up like that, so that was kind of a we didn't get a lot of time with that character, but I know him and John had a pretty close relationship. So it was kind of a sad moment for John. And right before Danny, like, and them leave and sail off, John, of course, rides in. He's like frozen, and they have some pretty like tender moments. Like, I really don't want them to get in a relationship romantically because they're like related, but you never know with this show. But they kind of have that moment where he's like rubbing her hand and everything like that, and he's like he finally acknowledges like I would bend the knee, but I'm of course laying in bed. So that was, I think, a critical moment. Him saying like once the lords of Winterfell, like the other lords of the North, like realize what kind of person you are, they'll follow me, and like we'll bend the knee to you, and we'll pretty much help destroy the Night King, and hopefully like put her on the Iron Throne. So and right before you think this episode's over, it flashes over to the frozen lake again, and all these chains, all the whites are pulling out the dragon of Viserion. Um, it kind of goes a slow pan to where his face is, his eyes are closed, and then when they flash open, of course, it has a blue eye. So, my thoughts on the overall episode. It was a great episode. It was mainly set in the north, so we didn't see any of Jaime or Cersei or anything down south. So I'm glad that it focused on that. The pacing, like I said, was a little kind of quick, but overall, I think it was a really excellent episode. I'm really excited for the season finale coming up, next week. So one thing I wasn't sure about was, um, you know, since they had the dragon and turned him into a white, can that dragon fly over the wall now, or or does the barrier just extend that high? So I'm thinking that might be how the Night King can like either destroy the wall. He might take that dragon, and I don't know. I haven't read the books, but I've heard theories that there is like ice dragons. So I'm not sure if this is some combination of that and the show where it's going to shoot. I don't know if it's going to shoot fire or ice. So it's going to be kind of interesting if he tries to destroy the wall with that. So I think it's going to have a lot of repercussions to the future of the episodes and everything. So I'm not sure if this is going to escalate into a big battle next week or not. I'm hoping we get some more stuff with Cersei and Jaime and just the realm as well. Hopefully, I think what's going to happen is they have that white because they were able to bring it back and everything and take it over the wall. They're probably going to go down to King's Landing, I'm assuming, and hopefully Cersei just doesn't have them all killed. But I think the Hound will probably head down that way. A lot of people are saying we need to get a payoff of him and his brother like fighting finally. And then I think John will probably be healing up. A lot of people are wondering where's Ghost and all this, his dire wolf. So maybe we'll see him. I think we'll see Tyrion go down to King's Landing as well. And I think it's going to be I don't know. A lot of people are going to want to see the Night King in like a huge battle, but I have a feeling it's going to be mainly down south, and it's going to be a lot of like there'll be fights and stuff, but I don't think there's going to be any huge battles in this season finale. But who knows? You never know. So, but this has been Toilet Topics. Please check out my other videos on my channel over on YouTube. If you have any suggestions or comments, please let me know. Until next time, peace out.